why waste time? I'll tell you, speaking of wasting time, this ain't a waste of time. With the matching hat on. Oh God, I thought those were bullhorns in the background at first.
I know every time.
But it's exercise equipment that he probably doesn't use from The Athletic.
Wow. Wow.
I didn't mean it like that. It's because he's so busy.
Oh, okay.
God. I wish I had Sam Amick's body. It's Sam Amick. Good morning.
Isolate that.
Hey, pal.
My favorite cushy poker player.
That was what, let's see now. God, Sam, was that we're going on almost 20 years ago, friend, when you dropped that bomb on me in that was the last playoff appearance.
I know. I prefer to just say, no, it wasn't that long ago. It was only two postseason appearances ago.
That was like pre-children. I mean, for those of you new, when Sam used to do the beat for the Kings for the Sacramento Bee, and I used to have Ron Artest in every night, he wrote an article on it, which is very nice of him, and said something to the effect of Carmichael Dave with his cushy poker players build. And that was like the most savage move that doesn't come off as a savage move in history. And that's why there's quite the contentious relationship between the two of us to this day.
I mean, I loved it because I knew I had the freedom to go there. Because, I mean, I did put you on the cover of the sports section. So it was like, hey, like you got the stage. Like, I'm not going to treat you with kid gloves once you get there, you know?
Ego put aside.
Yeah. Sam, I know there's a lot of different things we can get to with you here. Let's kind of maybe wrap up on the Kings season. They cleaned up on the hardware. We just talked to Monty McNair. I know it didn't quite end the way they had hoped, but you saw all 7 games. Just kind of maybe your perception of how Sacramento did in that series, how this season went for them, and kind of where that next level needs to get for the Kings.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, fantastic season. As I talked about a lot in the opening months of the regular season, I was pretty skeptical that this group would be able to get to the playoffs, not because I didn't think they had any potential, but the West and the context around them, I did not think it was going to be attainable. And I mean, it's a great year. Obviously they would have loved to have gotten past the Warriors, kind of learned the hard way how tough the playoffs can be. I don't know what direction you guys want to take it, but there's stuff spinning it forward where like the Sabonis struggles. I think it's mostly a matchup thing, but kind of a little bit of a bittersweet end to his season, I think, after a fantastic regular season. And like De'Aaron has said, and I like their messaging after the season came to an end, the idea that, they cannot assume anything going forward. Like missing the playoffs next season is on the table. Getting to the West Conference Finals is on the table. If not farther, I don't know. But we'll see what they do with the roster. Like, that is the thing about where they take it from here to me, is that the roster building that Monty obviously talked in vague terms about yesterday. And, that is a big component. But in terms of the players who are here and who are going to remain, they gotta stay pretty focused and try to get it to the next level.
Sam, we always love to get in the margins on things, and I was getting loose a little bit yesterday talking about free agency and Sacramento, and how on one hand, shoe companies have a little bit of a say in where these players go when it comes to their contracts, and you also have built-in disadvantages for a team like Sacramento because $100 million is not the same here as it is in Texas, as it is in Orlando, for example. That being said, and remember, I just said, for people to understand, Sam used to be the beat writer for the Kings. He's been around this area for a long, long time. Do you think this is the most attractive Sacramento has been from a free agency standpoint, maybe since the Mike Bibby, Vlade Divac days?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as they went through the playoffs, as I started getting used to the idea of them being on national TV every other day. And even kind of my own lane, like, man, going to these games. And I would joke with colleagues, from the national networks and whatnot, how surreal it was to have them in this city on the regular. Now, all of that really, really portends well for the Kings, because the optics, not only were they out there more than ever before. I mean, honestly, guys, we used to joke that it felt like they had been relegated, you know what I mean? Like, for all that time. And so Sacramento being kind of a sexy place to go play, De'Aaron Fox being the kind of guy that I think, again, not just the way he played, the way he carried himself, and the way that even things like, I know the fans were very upset with good reason with Draymond during the Warriors series, but the type of comments that Draymond made about De'Aaron after the playoff series, like, my goodness, put that on a recruiting tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know who they're going to target, who they're going to go after, but yes, you went from, I know they hate this old headline, but the B had written kind of an infamous story way back when about the Kings, being basketball hell. Like, you went from that to this. It's a hell of a turnaround as far as the optics and what could come from it.
Sam, I think that everyone would talk about there's levels to this, and the Kings did a big jump already, kind of on the same front of the team needing to make that next jump, which might be a smaller gap like Mike Brown has referred to, but maybe the same with De'Aaron Fox. He was phenomenal this year, and that level of eliteness that he is trying to get to, that Mike Brown's trying to push him to, how close do you think De'Aaron is to being maybe what some would consider a top 10, top 5 player, which he's not there, but it seems like he's trying to track to get there?
I'm just excited for him to see, to your point, Jay, like, where you can take it. Because I've said countless times on the show, just owning the fact of, like, so there's some players where you go out publicly and say, like, oh, I was on this guy before. And I'm like, no, I was kind of out on this guy about a year ago. And he proved me and a lot of other people wrong. Kudos to him. And now it's funny. I was going to share this thing that my youngest son sent me, and I didn't check all the accuracy of it. I think we're good though. It's for the video crowd, I'll show you. It's Steph Curry next to De'Aaron Fox on this little meme, and it's got under De'Aaron 2023, under Steph 2013, and the parallel is, it says first playoff appearance, both of them, 11th in MVP voting, both of them. Lost to a 4-time champion in the West playoffs, both of them. And it says, and this is the part I think is accurate, but both were 25 at the time. That was interesting perspective for me, because I've covered Steph's whole rise, and you do kind of forget that he didn't come, he played well as a rookie, but he wasn't a winning basketball player until a few years in terms of leading a program. So Fox in town, I feel like it seems like De'Aaron's been here for quite a while, but he's still pretty young. And I do think that, that part gets forgotten, and that part is pretty encouraging for the Kings.
Also, what wasn't in there? I saw that same meme. Steph Curry lost to 4-time champion Tim Duncan. De'Aaron Fox lost to 4-time champion Steph Curry.
Right.
And, you can squint your eyes. Keegan Murray is Klay Thompson. And then I don't know who our Draymond Green is, but either way, they stood toe-to-toe with the Warriors.
Dylan Brooks. They're going to go get Dylan this summer, right?
You've got to calm down on that one, pal. Hey, you know what? I was
just go get Draymond. Just go get Draymond.
I was going to ask you this. Well, you know what? We put a poll out yesterday, and it was fairly weirdly sort of, but overwhelming. That this fan base, despite what they went through the last couple of weeks with Draymond Green, would rather have him than Dylan Brooks. We're going to get back to the Kings, but since you brought it up, we'll just kind of shoot around. I'm not standing in front of Dylan Brooks or apologizing for him, because I think he showed his rear end during the series, and I think it ticked off a lot of his teammates. But did you find, and I believe it, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was your colleague, Shams Charania, that first reported it, that when they said under no circumstance. Now, Sam, I'm leaving open the idea that maybe that was a Dylan Brooks camp leak. I don't think it would be, but that seemed a little bit harsh. Huh?
You clearly haven't been on Twitter enough. Considering Dylan's agent absolutely eviscerated Shams on Twitter.
Okay.
From him.
Was that a little over the top, though?
I don't know. I'm biased. I'm subjective. Shams is a friend and colleague. I will say this. It's people, we talk about media stuff on this show a fair amount, right?
Yeah.
People always want to figure out where did it come from. But the part that does piss me off, for lack of a better way of putting it, is that everybody's always like, well, what's the agenda? Guess what? Sometimes stuff just gets out. It's not an agenda.
Yeah.
I know that sounds insane, but I can freely talk about this one because I have not the slightest clue who Shams' sources were. And if I did, I'd be acting very different. I have no clue. But to see his agent say, that he's killing Shams, so obviously not him. And then the Grizzlies clearly putting it out that this is not the messaging they wanted. Guess what? None of that changes the fact that Dylan Brooks was told in his exit meeting that under no circumstances would he be back. And if everybody's in their feelings about the fact that that got out, too bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he was told in the meeting. And yeah, the messaging's tough. But that you get it, that kind of a message in an exit meeting, it does get shared with other people. It got out. That's all there is to it.
And it's not just follow up. And this is always fascinating. We'll get back to this. It's not your job, nor is it Sham's or anyone else's. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, to really worry about an agenda. Listen, there's no doubt about it. And again, correct me here, Sam, but sometimes an agent, a coach, a player, a camp member, whatever, that's a trusted source is going to use you or Shams or Woj or Mark Stein to put stuff out politically that may help their position. And I'm just not entirely sure, as long as you got the quote right, as long as it's a trusted source, it's news. I don't know that it's your guys' job to arbitrate what the audience needs to hear and doesn't need to hear.
100%. And that's why, one guy who I have a lot of affection for and I think is incredible at his job is JJ Redick. But I couldn't disagree with JJ Moore on ESPN. He's kind of just bemoaning the fact that we have all-time greats playing on a playoff stage and somebody's out here trying to get media engagement. Like, oh, I'm sorry, because this series is happening, we can't talk about any other NBA news. Stop. I thought that was kind of crazy. And obviously, he's speaking on a network where, that story was not reported on their platform. So yeah, you can kind of miss me with that stuff. And that's for Dylan. Them's are the breaks. You know what I mean? Like, you moved the way you moved. Now, listen, even if the Grizzlies, I don't think they intentionally tried to get it out there. Well, I don't know. Again, I also think that, you talk about scapegoating. My God, like Dylan was your issue. Okay. I'm kind of done with the way they're running things over there, but that was quite a story.
Yeah. And I don't know how much you've been able to dig into that, Sam, because I think there is more meat there. I don't, whether he is the scapegoat issue here, whether there's more than we saw from just what his media presence was, the verbiage of how that came out. All those things to me are intriguing for a guy he's been a good player, maybe not great. Maybe he thinks he's better than he is, but man, to me, they're completely throwing him under the bus. And I don't know if there's more to that or there's more to him as to the troubles in Memphis.
I think it's a convenient, again, not knowing with total clarity how much, if any of this, they wanted to get out at this time. That's the disclaimer. But I will say that, we were hearing that they were done with Dylan, in terms of the timeline. Like, it feels very convenient to attach it to the type of stuff he said toward LeBron or the type of stuff he did. Like, my opinion is they were done with Dylan independent of that stuff. Basketball wise, of course, offensively, he makes things really tough as a liability, can't shoot. And, and then, so that feels like that's where they were with him anyway. And now, from a political standpoint, certainly if you can score a few points by acting like you did something to change your culture because you spent the past couple months having your culture criticized, maybe that's a kind of a silver lining. But as a quick aside and related to this, I talked to Austin Reeves. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk Lakers Warriors at all, but
sure.
This quote, Austin Reeves, it didn't really make the rounds yet. I'll tweet it out more today. This is Austin talking about Dylan's comment to LeBron, calling him old and saying that, that he pokes bears. Austin says, for him to say that to someone whose main goal is to win and who is arguably the greatest player ever, I thought it was very laughable. I took it as, you can't be serious. You look like a fool. But hey, people talk. It wasn't really spoken on amongst our group. It was really just a known thing. We're going to do what we got to do to handle business. So it's crazy to me. I've never seen a quote that like weeks later is still, propelling a team.
Well, and you had LeBron say the whole thing on Instagram was, if you see me and a bear fighting in the woods, we're help the bear, which I think is a paraphrase of something Kobe said years and years and years ago. Sam Amick of the Go ahead.
Super fast. This, not to make too much light of it, someone cracked me up yesterday with Dylan. They said, you ever think about the fact that he poked the wrong bear, the actual Grizzlies organization?
Seriously. That's a great quote, by the way. Sam Amick of The Athletic with us. I I don't know really where to go with you on this, Sam. Again, these are questions that need to be asked, but I'm putting you in a bad spot. We're still dealing with the playoffs right now, but we're trying to look ahead with the Kings, the offseason, all that stuff. No, and I'm just saying, I want to ask you about like Harrison Barnes and him coming back, and what do you think? And obviously, you know, I'm not trying to, obviously, you know, as much or more than anyone that covers this sport, but when you look at the roster, Sam, is it too easy to look at Harrison's spot, him being a free agent, and just do the math and say, well, if they got to upgrade, that's probably where they start?
No, that's just common sense. And it's nothing personal with Harrison. And I guess to juxtapose it with the Sabonis thing I referenced earlier, you know, Sabonis got a year on his contract. They certainly hope to give him an extension this summer. If not, they'll try to sign him 2 summers from now. But like the series, you know, that's a guy that you're still building around regardless of his struggles in the series. Harrison, you know, much older and has that slot wide open as a free agent. I mean, it's only natural to look at the options there because, you know, they, like Monty said yesterday, they hold him in very high regard and greatly appreciate the way he's been a professional and contributed and been productive. But now it's, you know, I don't think anybody should, for a young team like this that's trying to get to the next level, nobody should really have the inside track on that King small forward position. So it's like Harrison, and then give me all the other names, and then let's break it down. Free agency wise, trade wise, you know, one guy that certainly I don't think they have the assets to get him, but in a dream world for them, you know, like you put an OG Anunoby on this team, holy Toledo. That type of profile, you know, that's the kind of thing they should be looking at.
We have 10 seconds, so real quick, we'll end with this, Sam. Based on last night, are the Sixers better without Joel Embiid? Go.
I don't know, but James Harden going to look good doing that in a Rockets jersey again next year.
Oh, the one, the only Sam Amick of The Athletic. He previewed a couple things he's got coming up. Make sure you tune in. You can favorite your favorite authors just like I do and get yourself a subscription. I hear they're somewhere around $1 or less for a month. That's I don't know. You can't buy anything with $1 anymore, but you can buy fantastic journalism when it comes to all sports, especially, in my opinion, the NBA. Thank you, Sam, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care. That's Sam Amick. We're way late for a break. When we come back, we'll talk